Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez went on national television and laughed off the entire 2020 social justice movement as a punchline.
I have a local city councilman that has this saying, woke one was crazy.
Woke one was crazy. Okay, that's interesting.
And I think that what's important is that we have to assess what
was it? I mean, did the movement go too far with some of those positions? I mean, you briefly supported the idea of defunding the police.
After years of telling you that questioning defund the police made you a racist, she's calling it woke one. Like it's a video game she's patched. The people who lived through that hellish time deserve better than a shrug and a chuckle. On ABC's This Week, anchor Jonathan Karl asked Ocasio-Cortez about Wisconsin candidate Francesca Hong walking back her 2020 posts calling to abolish the police. AOC's response? She quoted New York City Councilman Kai Ase, who said, "Woke 1.0 was crazy," and she agreed, adding that the rhetoric from that era is not the rhetoric that we would use today. She didn't stop there. She said the pandemic created, quote, a huge opening of the Overton window, her way of saying that the nuttiest ideas imaginable were promoted by the Democratic Party at one point. So let's be clear about what's being reframed as a punchline here. Defunding police departments, riots that gutted small businesses, cancel campaigns that ended careers and reputations over old tweets, silence is violence, diversity training demanding that white employees swear allegiance to the falsehood that America was built on white supremacy. That was a dystopian, draconian time in which Democrats showed us their true colors. They showed us how quickly they jumped to defend anarchy in the streets, yet punish ordinary people for not showing ideological conformity to their worldview. But to AOC, all of that was just woke one. Here's what should make you suspicious. This isn't a confession. It's a campaign strategy. 2026 midterms are approaching. Democratic Socialists are getting hammered for their 2020 record. Francesca Hong in Wisconsin is one example. She just lost her primary narrowly against a more moderate Democrat. But then there's Abdul Al-Sayed in Michigan. Suddenly, the entire progressive wing needs to disown what they spent years demanding that everyone else affirm. Notice the sleight of hand here. Nobody's apologizing. Nobody's naming who got hurt, the small business owners, the police officers who resigned en masse from the force, the people who lost jobs over jokes online. It's just, the times were crazy back then, man. Move on. That's not accountability. Maybe you're thinking, oh, well, defunding the police was really an empty threat anyway. It was their utopian ideal that they threw around. Empty the prisons, no incarceration, no cops patrolling neighborhoods. But did it actually materialize? Yeah, it did. It actually happened. Many of America's biggest cities cut police budgets amid the fervor of anti-police sentiment that accompanied the Black Lives Matter protests and the Summer of Love in 2020. At least 13 U.S. cities cut funding from police department budgets or decreased officer numbers, with several more in the process, amid the national reckoning over systemic racism and police brutality. That included the nation's two biggest cities, New York and Los Angeles, as well as Austin, Seattle, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., and a number of others. A report published 8 months later in The Guardian, a pretty progressive publication, bumped that estimate up to more than 20 major cities that had reduced police budgets in some form, totaling out at some $870 million in cut funds. Ask yourself, if a Republican tried this, if someone said the 2016 rhetoric, man, that was crazy, about something that they had pushed, would the same left-wing commentators calling this growth be calling it growth? Or would they be demanding real reckoning? This is the part that gets buried. Woke one wasn't an abstraction. It had victims. Small business owners, many of whom were minorities, whose stores were destroyed and never reopened because rioting was supposedly a justifiable response to alleged police brutality.
Problem that bothers me, you says Black Lives Matter. I worked here part-time. Plus, I'm a part owner of this store. You said Black Lives Matter. Why don't you choke me? I'm black.
Tell him, sister.
Look what you did to my store.
Tell him, sister.
Look! Look what you did to my school.
Tell them, sister. That's right, because I got their back. These are my dudes right here.
Look
Good
at the
men.
things you've done.
Cops who did their jobs and got smeared as murderers by association. People who lost jobs over a tweet from a decade earlier because an internet mob decided intent didn't matter. Parents who watched school boards impose racially divisive curricula and got called bigots for objecting in a public meeting.
Loudoun County, Virginia, where fed-up parents there have launched a fiery new ad campaign calling out critical race theory in classrooms, aiming to oust 6 school board members who they say tried to target and silence them.
AOC calling that era crazy. Sure, we'd agree with that word, to be sure, but she's using it to dodge the question of what she did during it. She's excusing herself, taking away her agency. She co-sponsored the framework that fueled wokeness. She called defunding the police, not a metaphor, not like some nuance. That's a direct quote.
And it may sound strange, but many affluent suburbs have essentially already begun pursuing a defunding of the police in that they fund schools, they fund housing, and they fund healthcare more as their #1 priorities.
The idea that we don't spend enough on schools and students, by the way, is a total myth. We have never spent more per pupil on public education ever. If you took all our education spending and made it into a separate country, it would be the 21st richest country by GDP. But the most annoying part of AOC's semantics game here is that she's pretending like the 2020 woke madness was something that happened to her and the Democratic Party, rather than a conscious, deliberate, ideological framework that was manufactured, imposed, and enforced across the country by her and her peers. And also, is woke even over? Just a few days ago, The Economist published a screed against Paw Patrol, the kids' cartoon about law enforcement dogs. It reads, "They may look like a pack of cutesy, anthropomorphized dogs. No job is too big," vows their heartwarming motto. No pup's too small. Don't be fooled. Some say the cartoon heroes of Paw Patrol are covert outriders for authoritarian capitalism. This is exactly the kind of paranoia that the media and bureaucrats had during 2020 when they were nitpicking every American institution for underlying bigotry, which they insisted had to be gutted so that we could root out this evil once and for all. Of course, they were just manufacturing enemies to destroy. It's a joke, but it's also not. New York Times reporter Amanda Hess wrote in 2020 about Paw Patrol. The effort to publicize police brutality also means banishing the good cop archetype. Again, this is a children's animated cartoon that these writers spent many pages decrying as toxic to the nation. If Democrats really wanted to convince people now that they've moved on from all of that, then they wouldn't still be peddling the ideas of wokeness in media. They would do the work, as the left calls it, to prove that they've reformed. But I don't actually think they've changed their minds at all. Their conversion stories on the campaign trails these days are completely unconvincing. Here's Democratic Socialist candidate Francesca Hong, who I mentioned earlier, who failed to get the party's nomination for governor of Wisconsin, although she got pretty close.
In 2020, you posted on X this: "Police exist to uphold white supremacy. Defund the police, then abolish. Reform can't be an option." You still believe that police should be defunded and then abolished?
Right now, I think that we have a system where the Epstein class roams free, and our police officers are having to respond to mental health crises. They're having to respond to crime, where I think that if we are to be tough on crime, we must be tough on causes. And I am serious about public safety. Everyone deserves to feel safe.
You didn't answer my question. So please, the question's very simple. Do you still believe police funding should be going away and then police should be abolished?
I do not believe that police funding should go away, and I do not think that the police can be abolished.
So that was her explanation for her old opinion, but here's what she wrote in 2020. "I support defunding the police as a first step towards abolishing the police." I don't see a real evolution between that fanatical standpoint that she had during the peak of wokeness and her latest PR clunky explanation. I don't know about you. Woke 1 implies the existence of woke 2, which apparently isn't all that different from woke 1. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell so we can keep the party going. I'm Caroline Downey of National Review, signing off.